This conference will now be recorded.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So you said you had three monitors there. You looking like a stockbroker? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I'm living in the matrix since quarantine hit. I figured more square footage of screen was better for just the way I work.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I used to have one screen, and then I thought maybe I need a second screen, and now I'm like I could probably use a fourth screen. Uh,
You have a whole wall full of screens, right?
yeah, not necessarily the best thing for anybody, but yeah, it's good. So it's good setup.
Good deal. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time
Of course,
out of your
happy to.
day to do this. This is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out.
Absolutely. So what I do is I just kind of go into my little intro here, and then we kind of dive into it.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Pat Brown. I am a financial advisor out of Lawrence, Kansas, with Edmonds Duncan Investment Advisors. Played football for University of Kansas years and years and years and years ago. Was an outside linebacker, started for 3 years. Was a team captain, enjoyed my time immensely at the university, and became very passionate about financial literacy for student athletes, which led me down a path of interviewing former student athletes with the hopes that their stories would help current student athletes develop better habits as far as financial matters are concerned. As time has gone on, a lot of things have started coming down the pipeline, namely the names, image, and likeness that's going to be affecting a lot of student athletes as they continue to go into college. And so I want to do another series of interviews with people that are in that space, professionals that are in that space, to kind of give hopefully guidance to the parents and student athletes that are hopefully listening and watching this. So um, want to introduce my guest, Brandon. And I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly. It's Leopoldus?
Leopoldus, yeah, pretty good.
Leopoldus. Leopoldus. Um, so your name came up because I kind of came across you in, I believe, LinkedIn. And I just noticed some of the things you were talking about, which obviously are right up this alley with regards to name, image, and likeness. And obviously you touch on a lot of other things as well, but primarily you're an attorney, a sports law attorney. So if you could more or less kind of more introduce yourself, kind of talk about what you do as a sports law attorney, we can kind of go into it a little bit further.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thanks for having me. It's an interesting world. I actually started my pro sports career when I was actually introduced to high level sports was when I was a kid. Grew up in Colorado Springs, and my sister was the first elite level gymnast in the history of Colorado. And we just happened to be in Colorado Springs. The Olympic Training Center's right there. And so from the time I was like 9 or 10, my parents would pick me up at Little League practice, and then we'd go to the Olympic Training Center, and I'd wait for my pain in the butt sister to be finished.
Right.
And I'm playing basketball, I'm punching the heavy bag in the USA boxing gym just to kill time, not realizing that I was living out a really special opportunity courtesy of my actually talented sister. I had no athletic ability. She had all of the athletic ability. And so when she went to Penn State, it was my first year of high school, and I decided I got cut from my high school baseball team because I was, 4 foot nothing and 45 pounds dripping wet. And
Right.
so my mom said, "Why don't you get a job umpiring summer baseball instead of working at a Wendy's or something like that?"
Sure.
And so I started umpiring Little League, and I loved it. Didn't know what I was doing, but it was a lot of fun.
Right.
And I started working games, and then the next summer I was working games. And by the time I graduated high school, I was working JV ball of high school, rival high schools. And I was one of the younger umpires to ever umpire high school baseball in Colorado. And that's when I decided I'm going to go to umpire school. That seems like a good career. I enjoy it. And I was lucky enough to have the skill set where you can yell at me and I can still get my job done. So, I had the opportunity to work in the minor leagues for a number of years,
Oh, wow.
and worked 5 years on the field. And now this is my 20th year in baseball, in professional baseball. And now I've actually been a lawyer about double the amount of time I ever was an umpire. And so as a sports attorney, having that background of knowing just what the families go through, right? When you're being
Sure.
recruited, how do you pick a school? What does financial aid mean? Gosh, are they making the right decision? Do we send our kids to this camp? It looks good, but who's going to be there? Is it beneficial?
Right.
Do we pay for additional training? How do we pay for additional training? And then it's the other side of it, the non-sexy side of sports, when it's when the dog days of August are the real thing in baseball, where we'd be walking into a ballpark and you'd see the day's starting pitcher find out that his wife's going to file for divorce while he's on a cell phone as we're walking into the ballpark. And that
Wow.
wasn't an uncommon thing. That was something that it happens. And sports is not always the glitz and the glamour that you see, as you know. And
Yeah.
so for me, working in that space and being able to give back to all of those people and roles that gave me so much is really what I try and focus in on, regardless of the problem that they're having.
Wow. Yeah. So, I guess you just really have to take into account that side of things,
Yeah.
because you typically look at one side. So that's pretty interesting. So when you start looking at things, and as you start seeing things kind of start with this whole, name, image, likeness, have you seen a lot come across your desk as far as, just questions about it, or
Yeah.
how you can essentially, help out?
Yeah, so name, image, and likeness is a really cool space. I'm sure probably everybody that's listening today knows a little bit about it, right? It's
Right.
the athlete's ability to collegiate athlete's ability to actually make some money on who they are now. In college, unless you're working a pizza job or some side job, if you even have time to do that as a collegiate athlete, that's the only way you're going to get paid. And then even then, there's some restrictions on you from the NCAA.
Yeah.
Now, as this opens up, Florida's going to open up in August. We're going to have some ability for these athletes to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness rights. I'm actually working with a startup company, isn't everybody, in the space. And
Uh-huh.
what my focus is I take a real granular level of a look at everything. Not everybody's going to be the Deshaun Watson types or the Tua
Right.
Tagovailoa, right? Not everybody's that. Most collegiate athletes are playing field hockey. They're playing soccer. They have a quarter scholarship on the track team.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's most collegiate athletes. You were fortunate to play college football, but there's 90 to 100 football players that are on your team. How do you stand out from the crowd, and how much money are you actually going to make off of that?
Yeah.
That's really the big question that we get is, how can I capitalize and what can I do?
So, in doing a little cyber stalking and watching a couple of your videos, I mean, you
Yeah.
mentioned some very interesting things as far as forming an LLC. I don't know if that's for necessarily just pro athletes, but I thought it was just interesting to have form an LLC and, of course, have it, whether it's family members or what have you, and pay the family members if that's a scenario that the athlete is in. But is that something that a college athlete can do? Is that strategy, or is that?
Really good question. So in LLC, the way I call it the athlete LLC, right? For all off-field revenue, you put it into the LLC, you get taxed at a lower rate, and you have some ability to do things just like any other business. You can hire
Sure.
family members as long as you give them an actual role and you're not trying to run a con game on the IRS. You'll get in trouble for
Sure.
that. But
Right.
otherwise, if you have the legitimate business purpose, I always say put your mom or your dad in charge of the fan club or the kids camp, because they're going to be your best cheerleader generally. You're going to have a family member that you are the bee's knees to them, so put them in charge of stuff. You may have a brother or a sister that really knows what they're doing in digital marketing or website stuff, so you can hire them and do some stuff, and you can provide them benefits. For collegiate athletes, those
Mm.
people that are at the higher end, usually it's going to be one of probably three sports. It's men's football, men's basketball, and women's basketball. Those are going to
Okay.
be the main generators for that kind of level. If you're a quarterback at, say, Alabama, you can guarantee that you're going to make six figures. But if you're a quarterback at Miami of Ohio, you're still going to have some opportunity. So really, it depends on how much money you're generating. But the thing that I look at for the collegiate athlete is not just those guys, but what about everybody else? And if you have money coming in, you need to understand what that means as a financial advisor. I'm sure you've covered this, where if you get $500 or $1,000 from the Jersey Mike's Super Subs and Dayton, Ohio, when you're a Dayton Flyer, you're going to get taxed on that money.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like next year when now you owe
Yep.
the IRS, and because you're a student athlete, you just didn't plan ahead and now you owe the IRS money? You don't want to be in those type of situations. So understanding what all of that's about is really important. So we want to work with collegiate athletes regardless of where they go, to help them understand some of those issues.
Yeah, so you brought up a good point, which I will give full disclosure that this information should not be construed as legal or financial. or tax advice. So I just want to make that clear. And obviously, if they do choose to give you a shout, they can kind of dive into a little bit deeper if that's something that you want to do. But what I, again, with these types of interviews and, just talking to different professionals in this space, such as yourself, the question that I want to ask, what parents, students, what should parents know? What should they be, prepared to do, as a parent of a college student athlete?
Great question. It's I compare it to going grocery shopping when you're hungry. If you go grocery shopping when you're hungry, you're going to buy everything in the store. You're going to
Yes, sir.
gorge yourself on the couch, and then you're never going to. All the food's going to go bad in the refrigerator because you bought too much.
Yep.
That can happen when you come from a family that hasn't had those opportunities. Because let's face it, nobody's had those opportunities before. None of us know what it's like. You do, but not many people until college understand what it's like to play in front of 100,000 people. They don't understand that rush, that energy, that emotion. And so parents have a hard time because their kids are outgrowing their experience level.
Yeah.
So the best thing a parent can do is use their common sense. They're going to have their kids, if you're a 3, 4, 5-star athlete, especially in those big sports that are on TV, men's football, men's basketball, baseball a little bit, and women's basketball. Those are primary sports. You may see some more of it in women's soccer, men's lacrosse if you're in the Northeast, maybe swimming in some schools, some additional sports, gymnastics, maybe a little bit. But generally, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to come around and say that they can help you do things. You just have to sit back and relax.
Yeah.
No, if you're making money, if anybody that makes a lot of money, whatever you consider a lot, they work hard for that and they know why the money's coming in and where the money's going to, right? If you're clipping coupons, that same principle will apply when you're dealing with a financial advisor, a lawyer, a CPA. Just because you don't understand everything and the nuance doesn't mean that you don't have information. Everybody's common sense is pretty good for the most part. And so finding people that understand how you operate and asking a lot of questions is the best thing you can do. You can never ask too many questions. I've found that the con artists that are looking to take advantage get tired of your questions and they'll get upset. The people that are going to last for sometimes a year or two, if they're sticking around, they're providing you value and not expecting a lot in return. Those are the kind of people I want in my life anyway. I just don't want to take, but I also want to make sure that when I make a decision, it's an informed decision. And if you do that, most of the time you're going to make a good decision. You're still going to have some bad ones in there, but you limit that opportunity for a vulture to come in and pick you away.
That's you made some very, very good points. So as far as picking a profession, I think you touched on this as well with some of your other videos, whether it's a financial advisor, whether it's an attorney, whether a branding agency. How would one go about doing that? Of course, in my profession, I would be able to explain it as well. But with you, I mean, is there some nuggets that you can kind of also shed besides the fact, just use common sense, or is there anything else?
Yes, certainly. It's for, at least for the kids, they need to be themselves. Authenticity is what sells. And I don't care if you're a field hockey player or if you're that long distance runner that doesn't have a scholarship and yet you're on the team, right? Or you're the basketball player that doesn't play. If you're going to have name, image, likeness opportunities, or if you're just going to have opportunities in life in general, it's because people are going to know, like, and trust you. That's why the jersey may open the door, but your personality and your experience is going to keep you there. And so in order to be able to do that effectively is you need to just be authentic with yourself. The reason I started my LinkedIn videos, honestly, was I had too much information in my head that I didn't have an outlet for. And so if I had a question come to me more than once, I needed to do a video on it because somebody out there has those same questions as my clients. And if I can provide nuggets, like I did a video on what the heck do you do with a Super Bowl ring? It's a question I get every year, right? And it's a really good question. What do you do with a Super Bowl ring? Nobody has one. Like, I have my championship ring from the minor leagues, but nobody's breaking into my house for that thing, right? But if I'm on, the Kansas City Chiefs and I have a $60,000 ring and I'm 23 years old, I'm scared to death of that thing. Do I put it under my mattress? Do I put it in a shoebox in the sock drawer? What do I do? That's some information where, for me, those are the things I think about. So I'm being authentic to myself. So if you're a student athlete, if you're going to be on social media, you want to always portray the best foot forward, right? You don't want to be doing the video at the nightclub. It happens to every team every year. It's a lot of fun when you're at the nightclub, but what does that look like later on? You know, it's
Right.
one of those where just being yourself in your best possible light, you control the camera. You're your own production studio. Make yourself show yourself to be the person that you are and want to be to those that are reciprocal with you. They'll give you eyeballs if you're going to be honest with them.
Man, you touched on a good point. So again, a lot of these kids, because they're young, I mean, I didn't think about it, you just brought it up. Don't go videotaping yourself at a nightclub and then think that you're gonna get some type of brandy deal. That it's just not gonna work out. So that's funny. That's funny. So those are some great nuggets that you kind of touched on there. And I know you kind of mentioned the date. So as far as the things kind of come down the pipeline more or less. And I know the NCAA, because I talked to some other folks on a previous interview, they mentioned how the NCAA is kind of kicking things down the street, more or less, kicking the can down the street. So what can people expect at this point? Because I know it's such a moving target with this NIL.
Yeah, I would tell people to just be patient, because we're going to have Florida be the first state. Come hell or high water, kids are going to make money in August on Florida campuses. There's nothing the NCAA can do about that.
Wow.
They've already passed the legislation. It's going to happen. That doesn't mean it's going to happen in California tomorrow, Texas tomorrow, or Montana tomorrow. It's just not. It's going to take some time. We just had an administration change in Washington. Are we going to get national legislation? Maybe, but what's the effective date of that? So we just don't know. The one thing that I would tell you is that as a student athlete, you have a platform that most kids don't, all kids don't have that, right? And so you have a social media platform where you're going to have followers because you have the jump shot, or because you score all the goals on the water polo team. You're going to be a person that people want to follow. So you can use that, especially during your years at college. And if you are fortunate enough to play a professional sport, utilize that. Those booster meetings that nobody likes to go to because you got to wear a collared shirt, go to all of them. Get everybody's business card. Set up a LinkedIn account. You may not want to now, but when you're out of a USC or the Miami of Ohio or SMU, and you're not playing a pro sport, you need a job. So why not use your name, image, and likeness to go get you employed, utilizing the jersey to open the door, but then utilizing yourself and your personality and your experience to keep that door open for yourself.
Man, I like that. Utilizing the jersey to open the door. That's a very, very great point. And again, I was just talking to another guy the other day, and we just talked about networking. A lot of these student athletes don't realize the power they have as far as networking and just really creating those organic relationships. I'm not saying go out there and try to shake a bunch of hands and kiss a bunch of babies just to try to get over on people, but just really generate, get a really good relationship. And I think the more you do that, the better off you'll be down the road. So no, that's important. That is important. So as we kind of come towards an end, I just want to kind of give this time to kind of give whether it's a 2-minute video or commercial or a 1-minute commercial, just kind of tell the guys what specifically do and how you can help people.
Yeah, Leopoldus Law, that's my firm. It's on my sweatshirt there. We're a solutions firm for those in the public eye. And public eye doesn't mean you're an Academy Award winner. Sometimes it means that you're a blue chip high school kid that's getting caught up in a transfer situation. I'm licensed in California, but I have an attorney network across the country. So we've worked with kids in every major sports state, on just about every team in the NFL and the NBA, work in the baseball space, as well as hockey. But really the focus for me is I want to be that phone call that you make the call when you need something, when you don't know where to go, whether it's a legal question or otherwise. I have clients that call me, one in particular that calls me every year and forgets his anniversary. So I'm the one that sends flowers and gets him a dinner reservation, but I want to be able to help, right? I want to make sure that people have an outlet, and especially in the sports space, because it's a fleeting minute of your career. My on-field career lasted 5 years. It was the best 5 years I could have ever wanted in baseball, but it's gone. I don't fit into that shirt anymore.
Give me your shirt, man. That's all you got to do.
It'll fit for a minute. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, I've used that to open up a lot of doors for myself, and I want to help others that are interested in that find ways to do the same thing, regardless of the problem. If I can't handle it, I'm going to get you to somebody that handles it the right way and is going to do the good work for a client.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I hope I didn't take too much time
No, this
today,
is
but I
great.
definitely appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
Brandon Leopoldus, I will drop your information there at the bottom as well so that people can get a hold of you, and I'm sure we'll be in touch as time goes on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. You take care.
You too.
Yep. Bye-bye. Let's see here.